The labour contract law on the Chinese mainland is going to have an effect on practically every company working there. And doing a study on that is Hewitt Associates. Joining us is Stella Ho. Thank you very much indeed for joining us on tdctrade.com. Now, looking really at the contract going forward, what are you expecting to actually see?
Yeah, well, there will be changes expected given the new law. However, I would say there will not be significant changes as compared to the last existing labour contract law. The new changes are primarily in the space of labour union, for instance, which will be a major area that will be reinforced to be installed in the organization. Other changes are minor regarding term contract, for instance. Today, any employer can sign a term contract with an employee, and they can just terminate the contract when the term comes due. In the new contract law, the term contract cannot be terminated just upon will. And even if it is terminated, severance pay will have to be arranged. Today, nobody is required to pay severance if you just term an employee based on the expiration of the contract. So there will be some changes like that that will impact organizations. However, I would say there's no significant transformational change that will be impacting organizations.
So would it be true to say, Stella, that foreign companies will be really quite terrified over the expected implications of the new law?
That's true. Well, I think most of the organizations, they don't really understand the intention behind why this law comes about and how it comes about. Actually, the whole labor contract law, the new law, is really to address those non-compliant employers who are not paying the blue-collar workers on time, who are not paying the minimum required basic salary for the blue-collar workers. That was the original background. So this new law is really trying to address some of those non-compliant issues, and hopefully that will also help enhance the whole national theme around building a harmonious society. That's what everybody should contribute, and employers definitely is part of that.
So when would you expect this new law to come into force?
Well, that has been on forecast for several months, and everybody is saying, oh, in the next 6 months, and again, it gets delayed. I think the delay is actually a good sign of the caution of the government to balance the different needs from different stakeholders. That's why they are doing a lot of listening from the community. And this time, we are expecting the new law to be enacted towards the end of this year.
So presumably there could be many ambiguities arising from this new law due to translation, for example, then implications of that, let's say for technology purposes.
Well, I think ambiguity will be expected. And again, that's largely driven by the very diverse nature of how economic is being run in China. And as a law, it does apply to everyone. However, given the different business situations and economic situations, the local government will have to help with some of those interpretations. That's why I would suggest organizations to stay close in dialogue with the local government as well as the local business community to share good examples, case stories, and as a professional firm, we'll also play that role to share the most updated information with the community.
So would you expect that Hong Kong-based experts such as yourselves and, say, for example, lawyers as well, would be actually key to understanding the new law and interpreting it?
I think that's a role that we play, and we do see a growing role in that, especially when I still continue to see more and more foreign companies using Hong Kong as a stepstone into mainland China. They need a lot of help in understanding the legislation environment in China, and that's the role that we play. And also the other thing that I see is employees in China, they have an increasing self-awareness of labor protection. So we will be expecting more labor disputes, arbitration, and negotiation happening in more frequency as compared to last year's.
Would you say that it's particularly important that Hong Kong professionals play their part where it comes to understanding the legislation, understanding the way forward?
Yeah, I think that's a role that you have to play. And compliance is just the basic requirement if you want to do business. And anything on top will be nice to have and will position you in a competitive advantage. However, basic compliance is where the government is trying to reinforce in the next few years, given this new up-and-coming labor contract law, and that will give professional services firms a lot of room to play.
So looking at the rights of blue-collar workers on the Chinese mainland, how do you see the whole of the law actually developing in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think labor union will play a very big role in protecting the basic working conditions and minimum salaries, all those basic employment offerings to blue-collar workers. And that's how we see, there are basic recent incidents that is reported in the newspaper, and we have been experiencing with the labor bureaus and the national trade union who are reinforcing the setup of labor unions in organizations. And that is a future trend that we see. We know that a lot of the multinationals, especially those who don't have labor unions overseas, they try to stick with a non-union organization. However, operating in China in today's environment, I would suggest that those employers will have to probably have a much more sophisticated discussion of what labor union is all about in China and how they can set up such a labor union in China.